Wow, such a joy to be here. I will tell you my Rotary story in the course of this evening, but it's such a privilege. I want to thank Vicky, my friend. Vicky is one of those people that you can't say no to. Have you noticed? Yes. So Vicky is one of those people, she says, I need you here. And it's, yes, ma'am. What time? Well, I'm so privileged to be here, and thank you for the opportunity. And I said, what do you want me to talk about? And she said, just flow. And there's something that's been very, it's been really strong on my heart in different places where I share. And if you've been following me on LinkedIn, now if you don't follow me on LinkedIn, that's a sin. So you may want to repent before we go on. The name is Wale Akiyemi, and I'm on LinkedIn. Because a lot of the things that I share, people say, oh, you don't have enough time or whatever, but it's already there. And I want to talk about legacy. Okay? Yes. Legacy. What is legacy? I hope you don't mind if I move around. Let me tell you how that happened. When I was a kid, I had this thing called attention deficit disorder. That meant I could not sit down. But if my mother wanted me to sleep, she just made me sit, don't move, and I would start sleeping. And nothing has changed. So if you don't let me move around, I might end up sleeping. And you will sleep too. But legacy. What is legacy? A lot of times I found out that many people wait till later in their lives before they start thinking about legacy. But my simple definition of legacy is how you want to be defined when you are no more there to defend yourself. How do you want to be defined when you are no more there to defend yourself? What is the taste that is left in the mouths of people after they interact with you? Everybody is going to be remembered. That's definite. Everybody is going to be remembered. But how are you going to be remembered? Some will be remembered as an inspiration. Others will be remembered as a warning. Now, those who will be remembered as an inspiration, that means somebody else will come and do what you're doing, and they say, if you want to succeed here, whatever you do, be like so and so. That's called an inspiration. But then the other side of the coin is true. Where they say, if you want to succeed here, whatever you do, don't be like. That's a warning. And so there's no middle ground. Everybody will be remembered for something. A warning or an inspiration. Kindly do me a favor. Ask this person next to you, and which one are you? All right. And this means a lot to me, because if you've been following me, you will know what I'm about to say. On the 11th of August, 2023, I have been living in Kilifi. And I had a meeting in Nairobi, so I flew into Nairobi, got here about midday, and then my meeting was at 4 p.m., so I went to have lunch. I had noticed that I've been getting very tired. I swim every day. That's my exercise, swimming. But I'd been getting very tired. Where I would swim for 45 minutes, after 10 minutes or so, I begin to get very tired. But I paid no attention to it. Then came to Nairobi for that meeting and had lunch. I was so tired after lunch. So I decided to go back to where I was staying, a hotel where I was staying, to sleep for an hour. My team went ahead for the meeting. And as I got into my room, I wanted to get on the bed. And have you ever been in a place where it's like you hear a voice speaking to you? And they say, whatever you do, don't sleep. So I got up. And I left, there was a suite, I left the bedroom, went into the sitting room, opened the door, and less than 60 seconds later, I was on the floor clutching my chest. I was having a massive heart attack. All right? So that explains my absence for a lot of time. I was having a massive, thank God it wasn't permanent absence, I'm here. Thank God, So, So, of course, as I was going down, all I could say, I put a speed call through to my wife, and she just heard me screaming, "I shall live and not die, I shall live," and I was screaming. So, I arranged emergency, but they picked me up, took me to Aga Khan. And by the time we got to the hospital, everybody panicked. And I was taken into theater. And after that, the interesting thing was, they said that 90% of the main artery had been blocked and there were a lot of complications and all that. And the doctors came to meet me and were asking me, "How did you make it?" Now, when your cardiologist is saying you're not supposed to be here, then that rubs in differently. You know what I mean? Even 2 months ago, when I went for a checkup, I saw my cardiologist again. He said to me, "Who healed you?" He said, "Because we have had 0 survival rate for anyone that had what you had." Now, when you go through that experience, life changes forever. I found out that there is one thing worse than a heart attack, and it's the post-heart attack trauma. I couldn't talk. I couldn't function. I was an emotional mess for close to a year. An emotional mess. I would, when they say deep levels of depression, I would just find myself crying for no reason. I couldn't do anything. And, that did something to me. My life totally changed after that, because all the things that I thought were important, suddenly everything changed. And I'll share with you a few of the things that I learned, which I've been writing about. In my latest post on LinkedIn, I wrote about that. But the big question I ask is, what if everything had ended on the 11th of August? What would my legacy have been? At the end of the day, nobody's going to remember the car you drove. Nobody's going to remember how big your house was. Nobody's going to remember all those things that we count important. Nobody's going to remember them. What will live after you are gone is the impact you had on other people. Is somebody hearing me today? So I said, what will my legacy be? What are the keys to positive longevity? Because it's not just about longevity, it's about positive longevity. I began to study timeless brands. I began to study, I wrote a whole book about that, about the, timeless brands and all that. I looked at a company, it's called Merck KG, a German pharmaceutical company established in 1668. And they are still doing business today. 357 years ago. I looked at a company, a construction company called Kongo Gumi and Co. Limited in Japan. Brace yourself. Founded in 578 AD. And they are still in business today. 1,447 years in operation. That means they've survived every world war, every pandemic, every that has ever happened. They've survived it. And they are standing. And some people did not survive, some companies did not survive COVID-19. Or St. Peter's Culinarium in Austria, founded in 803 AD. Restaurant hospitality in business for 1,222 years. All right? Believed to be the oldest restaurant anywhere. And I asked myself, what do these people, what do they have in common? And that was the first lesson I learned, that from now, we need to be generational thinkers. Is somebody hearing me? This is one key difference between these brands and brands that fizzle out. You have to be generational thinkers. So I'm no more thinking of my action the immediate result of my action. I am thinking, what will the effect of this action be 30 years from now? 50 years from now? We have to be generational thinkers. We're not just thinking of the next quarter, we're thinking of the next generation. And I think that's one thing that is so crucial. In the year 2011, then I was doing some consultancy work with the United Nations, and 2011 was celebrating 200 years since the master plan of Manhattan was developed. Now, this is a master plan developed in 1811, a master plan that had roads when people were riding horses. That's called generational thinking. You know, one of the words we overuse in Africa is the word benchmark. We benchmark everything till we begin to benchmark stupidity and mediocrity. You know. I like the Chinese version of benchmark. It is copy to improve, not copy to copy, which we do. But then I look at, you know, the pyramids in Egypt, which I've talked about always, and I write about it. For 3,800 years were the tallest man-made structures on the planet. 3,800 years. That means nobody defeated their thinking. My God. You know, that's the kind of brain I like to have. You know, where your thinking outlives you. Some people, their brains die before they die. Other people, their brains die when they die. But others have timeless brains. All right? And, you know, so I asked myself, who were they benchmarking? London Underground, 1863. A city under a city, who were they benchmarking? And I have so many examples like that I want to ask. Who were they benchmarking? And, you know, we have to think generationally, and then we need to invest in our minds. A lot of times we invest more in our outside than in our minds. We need to invest in our minds, then we can benchmark our own imagination. Allow me to quote a verse in the Bible. It says, "Eye has not seen, ear has not heard, neither has it entered into the hearts of men the things that God has prepared for those that love him." And unfortunately, when we want to set out and do things nobody has done before, the first thing they say is, who have you seen that has done that before? And that becomes our limitation and our containment. You know, I want you to, if you have a piece of paper or whatever, just draw a triangle, okay? Any kind of triangle. And on one tip of the triangle, I want you to write the word comfortable. Comfortable. On another tip, write obvious. So comfortable, obvious. And on the last tip, you write known. So known, the things we already know, known. Now you see that triangle, the things that are comfortable, the things that are obvious, and the things that are known. Majority of people on the earth make decisions within the context of that triangle. That triangle, by the way, is called Wale's triangle. You say, why do you call it Wale's triangle? Because I like to, because I can. Pythagoras named his own Pythagoras theorem. Newton said Newton's laws of motion. So Wale can surely say Wale's triangle. The things that are known, the things that are obvious, and the things that are comfortable. Most decisions are made within the context of that. Unfortunately, innovation never happens inside that triangle. Innovation happens outside. All right? And we can only innovate outside when we dare to benchmark our innovation. All right? So, I'm talking of positive longevity. I asked one of my mentors, who I'll mention later, I asked him, he's 88. Well, he said to me, I took some people to him, and this is President Obasanjo, and I took some people to him, and he was talking to them, and he said he just celebrated his official birthday for 88. I said, but Baba, what is the unofficial one? He said, shut up, you know, because the people that said they knew him when they were young, people like Wale Akiyemi, they're in their 90s, and they said he was older than them, you know. So I said, Baba, what is the key? What is the secret? And he said to me, people die first in two places. They die in their head and they die in their legs. He said, you have to keep thinking. You have to engage your brain. He said at any point in time, he has 5 mega projects going on till this day. 5 mega projects. I just handed another one over to him 2 nights ago. 5 mega projects at any point in time. And then he said his legs, he's always on the move. Always on the move. One day, I'll tell you what, he was here. I had been with him in Nigeria. And then a few days later, he was here. And he normally calls at about 1 a.m., 2 a.m. You understand? And so I said, I saw his call, missed call. He had called at about 1 a.m. So I said to myself, all right, I will call him in the morning at about 9, give him some time to rest. At 7:30 a.m., I get a call, and he's laughing. I said, when are you going back? I'm coming to see you this morning. He said, I'm at the airport. I'm on my way back. Always on the move. Listen to me. Don't believe the deception that you are too old to be active.
Amen.
Don't believe that deception. All right? So, let me tell you, I'm a very, very, very proud grandfather right now. Okay? And I want my grandchildren to grow up knowing me as the coolest granddad ever. All right? And if that is going to happen, I cannot afford to behave like a grandfather. Oh, is somebody hearing me? Yes. I cannot afford to behave like a grandfather. Do I look like a grandfather to you? You know, so we are generational thinkers. We're generational thinkers. We are investing in our minds. We are constantly active. All right? And I have this very important that I developed in the process of this. I said, you know, whenever I see a gap, and I call it again Wale's gap doctrine, okay? Whenever I see a gap, what we normally do, we complain about gaps. Oh, the government, oh, the education is not good. Oh, this is not good. Oh, there's not, you know. And I said, you know what? From now on, when I see a gap, I'm going to ask 3 questions. What do I know? What can I do? And who do I know? And I'm going to apply myself to whatever gap there is. So a few months ago, I think February or so, we were with Governor of Trans-Nzoia in Mombasa. And I was training the leadership of the county. And you know, he said they don't have any university in Kitale. You know, and later I had lunch with the Speaker of the County Assembly, and he reiterated that they don't have any university. Now, the gap doctrine, what can I do? What do I know? Who do I know? And so I asked the question, I said, how about if we find somebody, maybe there's an already existing university somewhere, and they can come and open up a campus in Kitale? They said, that's a fantastic idea. I got my phone and I texted, but this is a very great opportunity to set up, because President Obasanjo owns the best technical university in Nigeria, Bells University of Technology. So I sent him a text. 1 minute later, he calls. He says, Wale, that's a great idea. Let's do it. He says, bring a team, bring them to Nigeria. If they like what they see, I'll send a team to Kitale, and we can have the university within a year. So I sent a team. I led a delegation to Nigeria. 2 weeks ago, the Vice Chancellor of Bells University and a delegation came to Kenya, took them to Kitale. We signed an MOU. It's not a public-private partnership. None of that. It's a full 100% private investment from Obasanjo Foundation. Wow. So all of a sudden, we have done something for positive longevity, to solidify our legacy, simply by asking, what do I know? Who do I know? What can I do? All right? I'll give you another one before I go to it. I was talking with the prisons. You know, I had gone to do some training at the prisons, and I heard that, you know, prisons are supposed to be centers of rehabilitation. But our prisons have become centers of punishment, not rehabilitation. So the gap doctrine, what can I do? What do I know? Who do I know? And I said, you know what? How many employees do you have? Because they said, look, before you talk of rehabilitating the prisoners, come and talk to the officers first, help the officers. I said, okay, you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to establish a rehabilitation program for the Kenya Prison Service. All the 70,000 or so. And they said, we don't have money. I said, we will fund it. So we are going to embark on a program with the Kenyan Prison Service to transform and bring rehabilitation and transformation to the prisons in Kenya. Is somebody hearing me? It's called the GAP. Now, I was not thinking like this before the heart attack, mind you. Before the heart attack, I was thinking of the next G-Wagon. I was so useless. Are you hearing me? Thinking changed when you come face to face with reality. You know? I met with the Director General of Immigration. I said, that's another problem I need to work on. I said, because that's the first contact foreigners coming into the country have with the country. So their impression of Kenya is going to be shaped by that immigration officer. I said, how do we change the culture of immigration in Kenya? So I had a meeting with the Director General of Immigration, who has been so fantastic lady. I said, you know what? Let's do it. Are you hearing me? So we're about to embark on that also. What am I saying to you today is that you don't have to be in government to make a difference. Yes. All right? We just need to think gap. We just need to think legacy. That's what we need to think about, all right? And then another thing that I found out, which is so good, and I think I have just 5 minutes or so. Do I have 5 minutes or so to go? Another thing I found out is invest in the next generation. That is so important. Invest in the next year. Because if we lose the next generation, we lose our relevance in future. We lose our relevance. We cannot fight the ones who are going to outlive us and shape the narrative about us when we are gone. Is somebody hearing me today? And by investing in the future, we secure our future. You know, what we're doing at the Street University, let me tell you one of the things that was going on in my head. And history has vindicated me or proved me my thinking right. I said, we are training young people. It's not enough to train them. I said, let's train them, let's fund them, and let's launch them. Because I saw that a lot of the young people I'm dealing with, they don't need millions to start. You know what I mean? They just need something small. There's a young lady, one of my students, all she needed was a sewing machine. We got her a sewing machine. She started from there, began to grow, set up an online clothing store. Today she does over 100,000 a week. Built a shop for her mother, built a house for her mother. You know? So I said, how about we train them, we see these guys, we invest in them. All right? We invest in them. You know, now, why do we do that? Let me ask you a question, and if anybody gets this, I might be inclined. Where's Edna? I need a lawyer to note my words. I might be inclined to give a book. How many of you know that was not a promise? What do all these have in common? Microsoft, Facebook or Meta platforms, Grab Holdings, Dropbox, Oscar Health, Groupon, Rent the Runway, all right, and Catalant Technologies. What do they all have in common?
Can I guess?
Yeah?
Their founders didn't finish university.
You're close, but not, yeah? Uh-huh.
Innovation?
Yeah, but that's not it.
Technology.
No, they are all, yeah?
Are they also a gap that they also, that they came up with a solution?
All right, you are taking my time now. They were all, all what they have in common, they all went to Harvard. Now, let me tell you the interesting thing. So, listen to this. Microsoft, market cap, $3.4 trillion. Meta, market cap, $1.58 trillion. Then the mid-sized Grab Holdings, $20.6 billion. These are the mid-size. They all went to Harvard. And I began to ask a question. What if, when they were in Harvard, the institution said, these are geniuses, let's invest in their businesses? Do you think Harvard will have the problem they're having with Trump today? If you are shareholders of a $3.4 trillion company? So I said, that's what we're going to do at Street University. We're going to invest in the future. And we invest in 100 of them. One of them will be a Microsoft tomorrow. But the point I'm making is, please, let's invest. Let's create memories. I remember I joined the Rotary Club. Let me tell you my Rotary history. I'm a third generation Rotarian. I joined the Rotary Club of Kent, Washington in the year 2000. Okay, so I've been a Rotarian for a number of years. Okay, since the year 2000. And I will never forget, and my son was telling me about this, talking of creating memories, investing in the next generation. I remember once we were going to take all our boys, we were going to take them fishing at a pond. But do you know what we did before we took them fishing? We bought about 1,000 fishes to put in the water to ensure every child will catch something. Do you know those kids never forgot? And that is the spirit of Rotary. Creating memories, investing forward, investing in the future, changing lives. That is the spirit. All right? And I'm so excited. The vibe in this club is just awesome. Don't be surprised if you see me here again. All right? And so create memories, laugh. That's Rotary, isn't it? Travel light. All right? Listen to this and I'm out. Harvard study of adult education, 80-year-long study found that good relationships are the most significant predictor of long-term happiness and health. Isn't that something? And that, listen, participants with strong social ties experience less mental and physical decline as they aged. And social connections and emotional well-being and longevity, long-being in longevity, surpassed, listen, exercise and diet in importance. That means Rotarians should be the longest living people on earth. Am I telling the truth? Yes. If this thing is true, 80-year study from 2 different reputable institutions says your social connections, happiness, it's a greater indicator. I think we should be the longest living people on earth. So finally, I'm an author. And one of the things I did, I became more intentional. So I have written 24 books. All right. The latest ones are, this one is called Brand Control, a practical guide to shaping and owning your personal brand. And then I'm very passionate about the mindset and the way we think. This is Limitless, Identifying and Overcoming Containing Mindsets. But listen, something, and then we have so many there, you can check them. But something happened to me. As I was writing these books, I found out that I did not have enough authentic case studies, original case studies from here. We're still talking about what Elon Musk is doing, what Jack Welch did, and all that. And I said, but we have them here. So we set up a company called African Legends to write authentic African stories. This is from Wale Akiyemi. I just love that name, an African name. The man who refused to fail. After 40 failed businesses. Wow. Now he runs a business doing over 500 million a year. All right? Unsilenced, finding your voice and fighting your way to the top. Those of you who want to understand how to, fight those corporate battles. These are they're not yet released, but I just brought them to show you what we are doing. This one is my favorite. It's called Cracking the Gen Z Code. And it's written by my daughter.
Oh, wow.
I'm proud. Yeah, I work for her. After this meeting, she's going to ask me, how many did you sell? Preserving your legacy. Winston Churchill said, I know history is going to be kind to me. They said, how can you be so sure? He said, because I intend to write my own legacy. And so it's an opportunity to solidify your legacy. It's an opportunity to have passive income. The highest paid celebrity in the world, 2024, was Michael Jackson. 2024. Go on Forbes, look at this. You look, just Google top earning dead celebrities. And Michael Jackson made $600 million in 2024. And I said, how can dead people, even Marilyn Monroe, who died before I was born, made $10 million. How can dead people be making more money than me? And this is possible only through, Africans, we know about real estate, but intellectual property is an area I think we need to get into. Please permit me to give my parting shot as I'm walking. I'm walking. So, my wife, I've been married for 33 years, okay? How she has coped with me is another story. Maybe you need to invite her to talk on coping with eccentricity. One day she did tell me that, Wale, there's a thin line between genius and eccentricity, and I don't know which side you are on. She told me that. But listen, her godfather died in 1988. He was an author. And since 1989, every year, he had 10 godchildren. Every year, they get a check. 5,000 pounds, 2,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds. You know what that is? Up till 2024, royalties from the books. So, what better way to preserve your legacy than to write a book so your legacy is intact and you're making money? How cool is that? Thank you so much.